Hey, welcome to the Cold Hearted Appraiser podcast. I'm here to talk about probate and trust real estate. And with me, I've got Michael Bell, a realtor with Sotheby's International here in the Pasadena area. Michael, tell me about yourself. Brag about yourself so I don't have to.
Glenn, thanks for having me on. This is great. I'm a real estate broker. I've been selling for 25 years. I'm in the Pasadena general area. I service about a 5-mile radius. And for years, I've fallen into doing a lot of probate and trust sales. And thank you for having me. I've been selling, I'm usually ranked in the top 1% in the nation, or at least LA County. I think last year was 0.08% of all realtors. And so I've been accused of knowing what I'm talking about.
I've heard that about you on occasion, so we'll find out today if I can now believe you. So what we're going to do today is just talk about a couple of stories that have some great lessons, provide some great knowledge. The purpose of the podcast is so that people can learn and understand and make the right decisions, whether they're a fiduciary, a consumer, an heir, or trust probate attorney, whatever, that they find the right person and do the right thing to maximize their trust or estate property.
Great.
So we're going to go through a couple of stories. Just maybe a little bit about your background. At the moment, what's your rough percentage of probate and trust listings and sales activity?
I would say about 25% of my business is probably probate or trust sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. And then, where do you usually get your trust and probate listings from? What are the mix of clients that you have?
Well,
for that?
years ago, I was a sponsor for the Bar Association, so that's a fantastic source. If you're a realtor listening to this, that's a great source, is to go to the probate meetings or the trust and estate sales meetings. There's a variety of groups that put on meetings, and they have speakers, and you can pay $30 to $50. The attorneys are there to get CLE credits, and it's a great place to network. Just find yourself a place that's not full of realtors.
Great advice. And I appreciate you bringing that stuff up. I think that's really important for agents to know and realize. So for the seller side, what's some of the hardest things that families have to do when they're in this process that's different from regular just selling real estate?
So, probates and trust sales are different, but a lot of it is similar. And generally, if you pass away, if a family member passes away and they haven't done any estate planning, then the state of California effectively takes over the administration, and that's called probate. And there's rules of probate. Now, when you sell a regular house, if you're just going to sell a regular house, you're confined to, and you're required to adhere to the California Civil Code as to how a property is sold. However, if you're going to be selling a property that's under probate or trust, and there's certain types of trust sales out there. Say for example, a trust sale, mom and dad passed away, and the kids are selling the property, but the kids have never lived in that house. Now it falls under the probate rules, and you're probably thinking, okay, what are these probate rules? There's actually probate code, and the code. When they wrote all this code, they understood that there's special circumstances where kids inherited property or somebody inherited property. They don't know that much about the property. In California, in every state, there's all these disclosure laws, and the bar is very high in California. You have to disclose pretty much anything you're aware of.
Right.
But if you never live in the house, or you inherited the house and you want to sell it, you're probably wondering to yourself, how do I protect myself? The code actually protects you. In that, there's actually less disclosures in a probate sale and in a special trust sales also than a normal sale. And if this is the thing, though, you've got to do it right.
Right.
There's some realtors that don't understand the nuances, and they maybe over disclose things in a probate sale, or they treat it like a regular sale. As a seller, you've now opened yourself up to all this extra liability, because believe it or not, you could over disclose on a probate and get yourself in trouble. Just my advice when you do a probate sale, or for a seller to do a probate sale, is adhere to the requirements and what the code affords you to protect you. And if you do that, you're going to be fine. But if you start over disclosing, then the expectation is the new buyer is going to expect that you should have known this or you should have known that, because you've kind of gone out of your lane.
Right. Oh, wow. That's just some fantastic information. I really appreciate that. So let's go through couple of stories.
Sure.
So for your first story, what kind of case is it? A probate case? Is it a trust case? Or what's the situation, the background of the transaction?
Well, if you own real estate, you really should. I'm not a practicing attorney, but I think if you talk to any practicing attorney, they're going to tell you the same thing. You should have some estate planning, because if you don't, and something happens to you, and now your kids have a bit of a mess because they have to go through the probate process, and the probate process could last years.
Right.
And on top of that, the probate process stipulates how everybody gets paid. And and oftentimes, if you really have a bit of a mess, you have to go through the probate court confirmation process, which means a judge actually kind of puts your house up on the up for auction. It's not an actual auction, but it looks like an auction.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And most people describe it as an auction. It's auction-like, but it's literally inside the probate court. And putting your family through that, I think, is just really unfortunate, and unfortunately it happens all the time.
Right.
But so my advice now, as an appraiser, you see this all the time.
Yes.
It's people's properties are in their natural names and not in a trust.
Correct. Yeah.
I would venture to guess in LA County, more than half the properties, most properties have equity, and most of them are not they've done no estate planning.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I think the numbers nationally anyway are like almost 2/3 of people don't have an estate plan. And even ones that do, obviously, don't execute it properly. They try to find the cheapest attorney who isn't quite thorough and isn't quite up to date, and they forget to put the property in the trust. They want to, but they forget to actually do it and things like that. So yeah, we definitely see that.
I'll tell you a story that happens all the time, and it goes like this. I'll talk to a family that's thinking about selling their property, and they'll tell me it's in a trust. And I'll look at the title, it's not in a trust, but it used to be in a trust. And it used to be in a trust, and they refinanced.
Right.
And they never put it back in. And I'll tell you why they didn't do it. Because when you did your refinance, the escrow company is probably told you that they're not going to put it back in. You have to request it. You need to talk to an attorney, and there's 5,000 moving parts in a refinance, and you wind up forgetting that one conversation.
Right.
And then years later, you find out that somebody passes away and it was in the trust and it's no longer anymore. Then you have to do what's called a Hegstead petition.
Right.
I'm not an attorney. Talk to an attorney about this.
Absolutely.
And this is when they petition the court to put it back into the trust, so you can avoid probate, and or so you can also avoid people that think they should have inherited that property.
Right.
It's an absolute mess. But the reason why the escrow company won't just put it in there is because they're like practicing law. A CPA is supposed to instruct you. An attorney is supposed to instruct you. An escrow company will not put it in, and this happens all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's, again, great information. There's so many things we hear of in our industry like that triggers some extra time, hassle, and expense once somebody passes away. So tell me about your story. Give me a story of one of your transactions.
Sure.
Something that you've helped some people through.
I mean, I can give you some hairy stories where there's two friends. One has estate planning done, and the other one doesn't, and they both pass away.
Mm-hmm.
And so half the property has to go through the probate process.
Mm-hmm.
And those are difficult deals.
Yeah.
So there's two kinds of probates when you sell a property. There's one probate that doesn't require court confirmation, and then there's that's a probate that it's well, I don't want to get too into the weeds. And there's another process that you have to get the court involved.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that could take 4 or 5 months to go through.
Right.
If you don't require court confirmation, it's largely treated like a regular sale. there's a lot of reasons to try to avoid going through the court system, just because, look, when somebody wants to buy a property, they usually want to buy a property and move into it in 30 days.
Right.
If your estate planning is all messed up, that buyer's not moving in 30 days.
Right.
Not only is that buyer not moving in 30 days, they may have to be in escrow for as long as 6 months. And the probate code also says that a buyer needs to put a 10% deposit down. Now, that's set by the estate planning attorney for the seller. It could be a little bit lower, but generally it's 10%. So guess what happens if you're selling a probate property and you can't deliver the goods quickly? You get less price. You get a lower price.
Right.
That's just the way it is. That's just the way the market's going to say, if I've got to wait 3 to 6 months, I want a bargain.
Right.
And so families get less money on probates.
Right. Well, and that's something that I see as an appraiser all the time, is that a lot of the trust and probate sales end up selling below market. They might already be in rough condition, but even given that, we see them as below what they probably should have sold for, even with the condition. So it's situations like that, is what you're telling me, that cause people to get less money, less proceeds from a probate.
And it's also true that most probates are not in very good shape.
Right.
And there's a few reasons for that. One is, of course, maybe they didn't have the money, but maybe the people that are inheriting it just don't want to deal with it. But also, the probate code actually protects you as the seller if you sell as is, because as soon as you start fixing things, guess what? You just open yourself up for more liability.
Right.
You need to disclose all of those things, because the operative word in real estate when you're selling, if you want to know about how to limit your liability, is the word aware. As a seller, it doesn't matter if you've never lived in the house or not, but if you're aware of something, you have to disclose it.
Right. Right.
And we have a funny thing about in real estate. I have a client. I'm selling their property, and they ask me if we have to disclose this or that or the other.
Right.
And the funny thing is, about this too, and every realtor listening to this right now knows this. It's like, if you have to ask, if you have to disclose, you have to disclose.
Right.
So you have to be very, very careful.
Right. Well, because you're showing awareness by asking the question.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that should be considered in that. Yeah. No, that's.
So in terms of sales, though, or stories, they're all generally the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's where mom and dad has passed. Maybe one of them is the latest one to pass.
Right.
And it's time to sell. Most of the time, the family members don't want to buy each other out, or they don't have the money, or it's just time to just cash out, because a lot of kids have moved out of state in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
They don't have the need to be in the LA area anymore. So we're seeing more and more of that, rather than having kids take over property. And then there's Proposition 19, which you're more of an expert on than me. It disincentivizes family members from buying their parents' properties.
Right. Yeah, the Prop 19 thing is pretty interesting, just because of the fact that it basically forces a lot of heirs to sell the properties, not just residential properties, but income properties, commercial properties, because the property taxes are going up, with very few exceptions, a very small number of exceptions. So the math just forces the sale, and that makes it harder now than it used to be. So that's definitely great information. So, what you mentioned, the heirs are out of state and things like that. What extra complications arise in the process for you as a realtor, for people who are out of state, and why should someone out of state really make sure they have a realtor that's experienced with this?
Well, I think I talked about that a little bit before. Is just there's a way of selling a probate or a trust sale that protects not only the client, the seller, but it also protects the realtor.
Right.
Because if the realtor screws something up, they're liable. If they wind up treating it as a normal sale, for example, like I said, you need to stay in your lane in terms of how you sell property, because the civil code and the probate code specify how you can do all of that.
Right.
I think that I'll give you some tips though. I mean, if you're a seller and you're in this situation where you have to sell your property, mom and dad's property, it's a trust sale or a probate sale or anything like that, don't hire any old realtor. Look at their qualifications. Pick up the phone and ask them, point blank, how many probates have you done? Have you been to court? Do you know the difference between full authority and limited authority? Do you have letters of administration? These are key words. Ask them about full authority, limited authority, those
Right.
words, and letters of administration. Those are key words that a very experienced probate realtor will absolutely know. And if they sit there and they go, oh, I think it's this or I think it's that, it's probably a good indication that they don't know what they're doing, and they're going to get you in trouble.
Right. So you're saying they shouldn't use their nephew that just got his license last month, and they're trying to help a family member out?
If I'm the nephew, you're in good hands. But most of the time, I would say no.
Right.
I mean, I generally don't. I don't think you should hire a friend or a family member. I know a lot of realtors out there are like, come on, give me a break. This is our bread and butter. My worst clients are my mom, my dad, and my brothers. I love them dearly, but
Yeah.
I want to have that relationship with them. And the other thing is that they don't have the nuclear option with
Right.
me. It's hard for them to yell at me or curse at me. And not that anybody's ever yelled or cursed at me,
Right.
but it's nice to have the nuclear option. It's nice to be able to fire somebody and move on to the next agent if you have that, but you don't have that leverage when you hire a friend or a family member.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of keeping this as a business relationship.
Right.
So, my advice is to interview at least 3 agents.
Right.
Now, most people don't interview 3 agents.
Right.
The vast majority, actually, the National Association of Realtors statistics says that 75% of all home sellers interview 1 agent.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I don't know if it's actually just interviewing the agent. They just usually talk to their friend or something like that.
Right. Right.
And look, they all think we're a lot of them think we're the same. We push the same buttons, and the end result happens. And it might look that way, but you're in this business, and I'm in this business, and we know absolutely a really good realtor will actually make you more money
Absolutely.
than the average realtor. That's for sure. And they'll not only that, they'll actually protect you because there's so much liability in California.
Right.
You need to be really careful when you sell a property in California. I mean, everything's over $1 million. I mean, we're in Pasadena. You can't get anything under $1 million in a neighborhood that you're okay with walking in
Right.
on a Friday night. That
Even property in rough shape that hasn't been updated because it's a probate
Yeah.
type property.
and we're looking, and you know this too. We're looking at $1,000 a square foot as the new norm.
Right. Yeah.
If you told me this was going to happen 10 years ago, I'd be like, "There's no way," because we were at $400, $500 a square
Right,
foot back
yeah.
then, and the only time you got $1,000 a square foot was on a certain section of like San Marino or
Right.
parts of Flint Ridge and La Cañada.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not that. And look, if you're selling a property for big bucks and you make a mistake, trust me, that buyer, if they can find a pattern and see how you screwed up, you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
But your realtor is really your insurance policy. That's another way of looking at it.
Yes. Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed in my years as an appraiser. Number one, not all realtors are the same. There's a lot that don't know what they're doing, that aren't fully prepared, they aren't thorough. They're not helpful in making sure the transaction goes smoothly.
Yeah.
And then number two, the risk. I mean, California, the risk is so high that to try and sell it on your own or use the wrong realtor who doesn't know what they're doing just makes no sense because the risk is just a big number. And again, when you're talking about $1,000 a foot or those price ranges, simple mistakes or simple errors by an agent could mean 1, 2, 3% of $2 million is a big number. You're losing out on a lot of money. So finding someone who knows what they're doing seems to make a really big difference in my experience, and that's why I appreciate people like you and running into people like you when I do the appraisal work. So
in terms of who to hire, I'm going to throw out something that I think will be a little shocking for you. The National Association of Realtors puts out all these stats every year.
Mhm.
And there's this one stat that stands out amongst all of them that I can't believe is true, but it absolutely is.
Right.
The National Association of Realtors says that 87% of all agents that get into the business are out of the business in 5 years.
Wow.
Just maybe consider not hiring anybody that has less than 5 years of experience.
Right.
That's one hack, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
Just ignore them. And I know that everybody thinks, a lot of people may think, I should say, that if you got your license, you kind of know everything about real estate.
That's not true in appraisal, so I can't imagine it's true in real estate.
I have a broker's license. It's 200 hard questions to have to get a broker's license.
Right. Mm-hmm.
To have a sales license in California, it's 150 questions. 75 are easy, 75 are hard. For a broker's license, like I said, it's 200 hard questions. I studied my butt off. I passed. I will tell you, maybe 2% of the stuff that I studied for actually ever came up in real world experience. And I sell 50 to 60 homes a year.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it. The test is really a barrier to entry, just to make sure that you're, I don't know, competent or something like that. But just because they pass the exam does not mean they have the sales experience, or they even know how to do, really anything. And our business changes so much. A regular offer, if you write an offer, it doesn't matter if it's a probate or a trust sale.
Correct.
A regular offer with all the addendums and stuff like that, it's about 30 pages of stuff.
Right.
Addendums and all that. And when I got into the business 25 years ago, it might have been 8 pages.
Correct.
It was like 6 pages plus 2 addendums.
Right.
And that was it. And everything's kind of gotten crazy in the last few years. In the last few years, I would say every year they've added about 2 pages of stuff.
Right.
And they've redone the contracts so many times that why would you hire somebody who just started?
Right. Yeah.
They literally don't teach any of this to get your license.
Yeah. Well, I've seen agents do sales contracts on old forms. They aren't using a new form, which is obviously longer, and that's maybe the part of the reason why. But yeah, so it definitely makes a big difference.
I'm selling a big house in La Cañada right now for $4.7 million. And we had multiple offers. One of the guys that wrote the offer, he wrote an offer on a contract that's 2 versions old.
Oh, wow.
I called him. I'm like, where did you find this? Like, because we all, as a professional realtor, we all subscribe to an online database that
Correct.
has all the most updated forms from our state association.
Correct.
And ours is through the California Association of Realtors. I pay a fee, and a professional realtor who pays their fees it's all updated, like literally to the day. I don't know how he got those forms.
Right. Yeah, that's maybe saved on the computer or something like that, because a lot of that stuff, even in the appraisal world, are marked old or retired or things like that. So it would be hard to use stuff like that.
Well, the funny thing about the story is it was a really good offer. So he wanted a counter offer.
Right.
And I said, I can't give you a counter offer.
Until you
my
put on the right
office
form.
won't allow it.
Yeah.
And it's not my office, it's every office. You can't counter somebody using when they give you the wrong form. It may as well have been on a piece of toilet paper. Really.
Right.
It's that useless, because our heirs and emissions insurance doesn't cover us if you just can't.
Right.
It's amazing the kind of agents that are out there. You just got to be really careful.
Yeah. So for the probate situation, what I'm hearing from you, the 3 takeaways that I just got from our conversation are, number 1, use somebody who's experienced in probate.
Very experienced.
Right. Not only, actually, number 1 would really be use an agent who's experienced to begin with.
Yeah.
But not just an experienced agent, an agent who is also experienced in probate.
Yes.
Because there's agents who are young in their career who are very good at regular sales, but they don't quite have the experience in the probate sector. So that would be the second criteria. Find someone who's got probate experience. And then number 3 is get an estate plan, right? And avoid probate. So if you can avoid that in the first place, you're already ahead of the game. Yeah. So if you've got an estate plan, even a simple one, but make sure you hire somebody good, not just somebody cheap. Someone who's going to make sure things happen.
I'll tell you a recurring thing that I hear all the time when I get a probate sale. the brother and sister or the siblings will all say the same thing. And if you're on the fence with doing estate planning, listen to this. When you pass away, your kids are going to be very upset with you.
Right.
And they're going to say it over and over again. I wish my mom and dad. I wish dad did this. I wish mom did this, because it's the process is grueling. It's expensive. It takes forever. You want the transaction to go quickly. When transactions don't go quickly, guess what? It's just hard. It's hard on the family. It's hard on the finances. It's hard on the kids. There's always somebody that wants the money faster than everybody else. You want to kind of get that stuff done.
Right.
And I've done probates before where I've done probates where I've sold the real estate, but they haven't closed out the entire probate, and it's been years.
Wow. Okay.
This happens a lot just because they're fighting so much,
right,
and they're suing each other or whatever, and it gets to that point. But if you have an estate plan, all of that's just taken care of.
Right.
There's no more lawsuits. There's no more questions. There's no more claims. There's none of that. There's none of this. Mom said I get this, or I took care of mom all this time. Or you have the horrible stories where somebody goes into a congregate care or convalescent care, and the nurse, all of a sudden, the nurse was promised a portion of the real estate. This happens a lot. You have to be careful about this. Attorneys know about this. It's a big scam. But sometimes what happens is, the kids don't visit mom and dad at the convalescent hospital, and the nurse becomes really good friends, and I love you, and you're so sweet, and you're the parents I never had, and you're the daughter I never had. And then they promise something, or they get something in writing. If you have an estate plan, that takes care of all of that.
Right.
Usually. Like I said, I'm not an attorney.
Right. So an estate plan basically is an investment that saves you money and time.
It's like an insurance policy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Tell me a story about someone who has an estate plan. Right. Tell me that process. Something you've worked with recently. A story of how you helped someone that had an estate plan, and what's that process like?
Well, generally, there's if you have an estate plan, you have a trust. A revocable trust. Once mom and dad passes away, it becomes irrevocable, and it usually names who is the trustees. The trustees are usually the mom and the dad.
Right.
But then there's what's called successor trustees, and generally those are the kids, and sometimes there's co-trustees. It's been my experience, most attorneys will tell their parents just to pick one trustee and pick the one with the business experience. That's a good. That's good with all the other siblings.
Yes. Yes.
Like in probate, they generally don't like to see two administrators. They just like the judges.
Yeah.
And if they see two administrators, oftentimes the judge will say, I'd like to see one. This is my advice, because of fighting and signatures and all this other stuff.
Right.
But as an agent, when I'm selling a property, I need to see the trust agreement, because I need to know who the signatories are.
Right.
I want to make sure I have a valid listing contract, and if we go into escrow, I want to make sure I have a valid purchase and escrow.
Right.
If I screwed up and I didn't get that, I'm going to be in big trouble. So don't be offended when your agent wants to see the trust agreement.
Right.
Or maybe the only thing they need is what's called a trust certification. And a trust certification is generally, if you do an estate plan, the attorney's going to the attorney's going to put together an outline.
Right.
It's basically what's called a trust certification.
Yeah.
And it'll just stipulate who the signatories are and all that stuff. Because as an agent, I don't need to know who's getting the baseball cards. But sometimes I do get the entire trust, because they can't find the trust certification.
Yeah.
And now I have a 90-page document.
Right. So again, the experience level, even in a trust situation where it has been laid out, you want an agent who has that experience.
Other
Who can understand that there's certain things they still need to do in the process.
Yep.
So, what kind of other big takeaways from being a trust and estate attorney, probate attorney? What else can you just really advise people that it's important to do, aside from what we've already talked about, to make sure they have the best experience possible.
So as a licensee with the state of California, I have a fiduciary duty to my clients, and my job is to get them, first of all, is to get them the most amount of money.
Right.
And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways is that I don't believe in dual representation, and that's when your agent also represents a buyer.
Right.
It's legal in California, but it's illegal in 5 other states. But it's also illegal. I shouldn't say illegal, but you can't, as an attorney, they can't represent both sides.
Correct.
There's agreements and stuff that they can, eventually you could do that, but
Right.
but in real estate, it's really not a very good idea.
Right.
So ask your real estate agent. If a realtor comes to you and says, I got a buyer for your probate, and they'll take it as is, be careful.
Right.
Be very, very, very careful. Because if you want to make the most amount of money, your realtor is supposed to do this for you. And usually the most amount of money is put it on the market. Market price
Yes.
is usually the highest price.
Correct.
Put it on the open market and allow people to bid on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that sell probates. They think, oh, no one's going to want to buy it. Trust me. If you have a property in California, anywhere in the United States, people want to buy it. It may
Yeah.
be a function of price, but I can tell you so many stories of people that they have no idea, and they think that no one will buy their property
Right.
because for some reason they think that people only buy fixed up properties.
Right.
It's not the case at all.
Yeah.
I've sold properties I sold a property in Big Bear years ago. A drunk driver drove through the house. There was
Wow.
a hole in the house.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I've seen as an appraiser, I do a lot of data death appraisals, and I've had many where I've come in at a number and the agent who referred me to the owner was like, do you really think it would go for that? I mean, it's got some real issues. And I'm like, yeah, the comps I used had real issues too. And we've had many where we followed up and they sold for exactly what I appraised it for, or within a few percent. So it's been interesting. You definitely don't want to assume that you're going to get the lowest value because it's a trust or property that needs work for sure.
2 years ago, I got a phone call from a brother and sister up in Altadena, and they wanted to sell their house. Mom had just passed away. Dad had passed away earlier.
Right.
And I don't know if it's not really a part of this conversation, but it is. They used to grow pot in the backyard.
Oh, no.
And the garage was a grow, whatever you call it,
Yeah.
a grow thing. Anyways, so I get to the house and I told them what I thought their house was worth. It was about $800,000.
Right.
And they had asked me, "What do you think the house was worth?" And I said, "It's about $800,000." And they looked at me and they go, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm thinking, "Oh God, they must think it's a lot higher." Like, right? And I said, "Well, what were you thinking?" They said, "We already talked to a realtor and he thought it was worth $400,000 and it was land value only."
Oh.
And
And he probably had somebody that would help buy it for him off market.
I told him, you don't have to hire me. Just don't hire them. Be
Right.
very, very careful. But please, let me just show you. Let me just show you the values. But you need to be really careful who you hire.
Yeah.
Like I said, as a real estate agent, we have a fiduciary duty. Unfortunately, we have bad apples in our industry, and we have bad apples in every industry.
Correct.
You have to be very, very careful because, the thing is, I was telling you about the offers. Offers are like 30, sometimes 40 pages of stuff.
Right.
This is the problem we have now, is nobody can read it.
Right.
And so that is actually, if you talk to an attorney, they'll tell you, that's the defense people have. You gave me too much paperwork.
Right.
I know I signed it. And I know it says it. They says the same thing 3 different times in 3 different ways in 3 different documents, but it was so overwhelming. We have a document now. This is a disclosure. It's a disclosure disclosing that there's going to be disclosures. It's a 3-page
Right.
form. The California Association of Realtors put this out about 8 years ago. It's a disclosure disclosing there's going to be disclosures.
That sounds like the current world. Hey, well, Mike, thank you very much for coming on and just giving us knowledge that you have. I think the big takeaways is, do your due diligence, hire an experienced agent, not only just experience, but experience in probate and trust, and also just plan ahead.
Yeah.
Right? Plan ahead. So thanks for appearing on the Cold Hearted Appraiser podcast.
Love it.
And so that's our lesson for today from the Cold Hearted Appraiser podcast.